안녕하십니까. 2020 디지털 이코노미 포럼에 오신 여러분을 진심으로 환영합니다. 저는 오늘 진행을 맡은 코리아 스타트업 포럼의 최재영 본부장입니다. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Digital Economy Forum 2020. My name is Josh Choi, Director of Business Development at Korea Startup Forum. I'm truly honored to be an MC for today's event. 올해로 세 번째를 맞이하는 디지털 이코노미 포럼은 기획재정부가 주최하고 코리아 스타트업 포럼이 주관하는 글로벌 포럼으로서 올해도 전 세계의 다양한 혁신가 및 전문가들을 모시고 디지털 경제의 미래와 다양한 혁신 아이디어와 인사이트를 공유할 예정입니다. The Digital Economy Forum, launched in 2018, is an annual event hosted by the Ministry of Economy and Finance of the Republic of Korea and organized by Korea Startup Forum. The forum is a global discussion platform inviting world-renowned experts and thought leaders to discuss on how to shape the future of the digital economy and share the novel ideas and insights. 전 세계를 강타한 코비드-19으로 인해서 디지털 경제는 이전에 경험하지 못한 아주 큰 변화를 맞이하게 됐는데요. 그래서 올해 디지털 이코노미 포럼은
That is why the
Post-Corona
Digital Economy Forum this year is held under the theme of Post-Corona Digital Economy, accelerating the digital transformation. We prepared 4 sessions, 2 keynote speakers, as well as special sessions. So we have a full program for you today. And in order to enhance the expertise and the level of discussions this year, we have organized the forum with specialized institutions around the world, and esteemed speakers from Seoul, Boston, Silicon Valley, London, Geneva, Helsinki, and New Delhi will be joining us today. Today's forum is being held at a very special studio in Seoul, the Republic of Korea. But since it's a global forum, we have prepared a simultaneous interpretation into Korean and English. For our audience, I would like to ask you to select your language of choice and join us for this forum. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you the host who is overseeing the economy of the Republic of Korea, who is the Minister Hong Nam-gi of the Ministry of Economy and Finance. Due to social distancing measures in Korea, he has sent us an opening remarks video.
Good morning. First of all, it is my great pleasure to appreciate the guests of honor, including President Lee Seung-kwan of Korea Startup Forum, Peter Diamandis, Dean of Singularity University, our keynote speaker today, Director Andrew Wikoff of Science, Technology, and Innovation from OECD. Thank you for being with us in this forum. My thanks should also go to Korean Startup Forum, the Milk, Alto ES, WHO, ITU, and other organizations whose presence graces our event. And our participants online from the other side of the screen in this forum, which is aired because of the pandemic situation. How exciting and pleasing to see you, though, via video. The Ministry of Economy and Finance, since 2011, had held International Forum Industrial Economy, discussing global economic and industrial changes and the policy implications. 2018 saw its expansion to Digital Economy Forum, focusing our attention on the coming digital economy. This year, in this particular situation of COVID-19, we are here to discuss under the theme of Post-Corona Digital Economy, accelerating digital transformation for genuine innovation. Economies and societies across the world had not been strangers to digitalization even before the pandemic, but after this, the speed has been accelerated. Although the global village under lockdown and social distancing is minimizing physical contact among people, paradoxically, online contacts are becoming more and more frequent. Smartphones work as devices for easy remittance and payment in daily lives. 5G and AI are utilized for drones, robots, and autonomous driving. The world is faced with the digital waves, where remote medical care, work from home, and remote education have become household words. We've seen 2 years of worth of digital transformation in 2 months, said a CEO of a global digital leading company who explained how fast the velocity of transformation is. How we can cope with this digital trend is our most immediate challenge. Depending on our responses and capabilities, our future will be diverged to a great degree. Especially, Korea has low fertility and fast-aging population, more serious than ever before, and structural changes of the economy are widening. Thus, the importance of digital economy cannot be too much emphasized. Respectable guests of honor, there is a saying that a journey or an exploration is to make our own way forward and to move into the unknown, challenging the ignorance of our own. Although we do not know where the digitalization will take us in the end, we must continue our journey and exploration of venturing into the unknown world of digital economy. We need to improve our understanding on the changes caused by digital transformation and to use our wisdom to solve challenges therefrom. Hence, I would like to take a few moments to explain the ways of facing such transformation in the three forces that we need to focus on with some Korean government's best practices. First is the force of innovation to allow digital transformation and competitions to speed up. For the private sector to be the main player on the forefront of digital economy, what the government should do is to expand digital infrastructure and abolish regulations in order to help blossom innovations. Under that spirit, the Korean government, July this year, announced the National Development Strategy of Comprehensive Korean-Style New Deal Plan to jump to a leader in the post-corona era. Among the three pillars, the first is the Digital New Deal. As Korea is well known for the ICT, we can make intensive investment into the digital economy infrastructure with a view to preemptively leading the digital trend being sped up by the pandemic aftermath. 5G superways and other digital highway will be upgraded, and the data shall be collected, opened, and used fast in the so-called data dam, the essence of digital economy, that is DNA ecology, standing for data, network, and AI, will be built to go along with and converge with the entire industry. Not content with financial investment, we will further our efforts in easing old institutions so that the outdated rules will change into the right outfit for a digital economy. The second is force of engagement, to bridge the gap arising from the process of digital transformation. If AI and robots are replacing the human labor, they will leave some classes of people jobless, and the digitally vulnerable will be isolated from the society, and the digital divide will further exacerbate the economic disparity. At this juncture, we want to look back and take a lesson from the 19th century Industrial Revolution with drastic changes and even the Luddite movement. Finding inclusive and balanced solutions for all walks of life to adapt to changes is a common challenge for all of us to solve together. The Korean government, under this fast digitizing environment, puts top priority on the policy to make dense network of employment and social safety in which the vulnerable can get decent jobs and cannot be excluded from the society. We are not only making investment in human resources to enhance the digital capabilities of the public, but also diversifying our initiatives to raise digital access for the marginalized. The last and the third force we need is that of mutual growth that brings a win-win through conflict management. As seen in some sharing economy cases, introduction of new services of digital technology will naturally involve confrontation and conflicts between the existing and new businesses. Potential conflicts among the interested parties should be preceded by social consensus so that we can guarantee the transformation to digital economy and the growth thereafter. As the saying goes, one step back to move forward. It is indeed a universal wisdom across the world to say that a step back is necessary for making a big move forward. The Korean government, as a mechanism to resolve conflicts in new business areas, has introduced, as we call it, one-step model, which encourages a step back by each party involved and the support by the government in between. Such a mechanism, if successful in accumulating social capital, is expected to play a big catalyst role for the digital economy transformation. Honorable guests, never waste a good crisis, said Winston Churchill once, and we still remember that. And the plague, which swept Europe in the Middle Ages, took the toll of 1/3 of the European population then, but ironically, it also broke down the old feudal system and revved the engine of the Renaissance period. The current COVID-19 pandemic, rampant across the world, can also work as a historical chance to advance the digital innovation depending on our responses. Today's Digital Economy Forum can serve as a valuable venue to explore action plans, and I look forward to hearing collective and valuable wisdom by all the participants. I strongly wish this forum can become a compass to guide the global and Korean economy through the great navigation in this transformation era. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So that was the opening remarks by Minister Hong Nam-gi. Thank you very much for your remarks. Now I would like to introduce to you the organizer of today's forum, who is the chairman of Korea Startup Forum and CEO of Viva Republica. Mr. Lee Seung-gun will deliver his welcome remarks on the video. Good morning. I am Seung-gun Lee, chairman of Korea Startup Forum and CEO of Viva Republica. First of all, I have the pleasure to thank Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Finance, Hong Nam-gi, for hosting Digital Economy Forum 2020. I also like to thank keynote speakers, Peter Diamandis, the founder of X Prize Foundation, and Andrew Wyckoff, the Director of Science, Technology and Innovation at OECD, as well as global opinion leaders in the field of digital economy and our partners, the Milk, AltoES, International Telecommunication Union, and World Health Organization. I would also like to welcome all of you from home and abroad to attend this year's Digital Economy Forum, which is being held online. Digital Economy Forum took its first step in 2018 with its focus on innovative companies leading the growth and trends of the global economy and the impact of digital transformation. DF has since served as a global forum, presenting the direction of digital economy where the public and private sectors work together to build an innovative future. The forum has tried to identify the driving force of innovative growth and paid attention to the global unicorn companies that drive economic growth and technological innovation, exploring this ecosystem of digital economy. So this year, we're going to hold the third Digital Economy Forum under the theme Post-Corona Digital Economy, Accelerating Digital Transformation for Genuine Innovation. And in the face of the unprecedented, rapidly changing global pandemic landscape resulting from the coronavirus pandemic, we are seeing unprecedented changes in finance, education, healthcare, employment, and consumption. And in these times of an unprecedented crisis and uncertain future, digital transformation is underway faster than ever before. And we are now at an inflection point of the great transformation towards digital economy. This is a new normal era. And this year's forum will include 4 sessions on the topics closely related to our digital lives under the theme of digital transformation. Session 1 will focus on the role of government and its policy implications amid the inevitable digital transformation that is taking place. Session 2 will showcase new user experiences based on hybrid technologies of the media as well as the entertainment industry. Session 3, we will discuss the future of work and jobs, as well as share opinions with different perspectives on the right direction of the healthcare industry, which is hardest hit by the COVID-19. Last but not least, Session 4 will share the best practices as well as the business insights of Korean startups that have successfully turned this COVID-19 crisis into opportunities. The Yuval Harari said in the Financial Times that the storm will pass, but we will inhabit a different life. And in order to overcome the crisis of today, we have to prepare for an innovative future, which will be driven by the digital economy. He emphasized the importance of global solidarity. And other scholars also say the same message. Of course, global cooperation is the key to overcome this crisis. We need cooperation, and as such, we can open up a new future for digital transformation. Once again, I would like like to thank all the opinion leaders for joining us today. We hope to draw new insights through today's forum. Once again, thank you very much for attending the third digital forum, and I look forward to your continued interest and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was President Lee Seung-gun of Korea Startup Forum. After hearing the opening remark and the welcoming remark, my expectation on this DEF today is ever growing. Now I'd like to start the forum today without further ado. Our first speaker is as follows. We have invited with our honor Mr. Peter Diamandis, Innovative Enterprise, who is the founder of XPRIZE and also the Singularity University. His topic is Meta Trends, Future is Faster Than You Think. We'll listen to him for about 30 minutes, and also we have Q&A session for the next 15 minutes. You can ask questions through your windows. Now, without further ado, let's listen to his presentation, please.
It's a pleasure to be joining you, albeit digitally. It was in January of 2020 that I wrote a book called The Future is Faster Than You Think. Little did I know how fast the world would be changing. The challenge is that our brains, the 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion synaptic connections that make up everything we've ever felt and known, every thought, our brains evolved on the savannas of Africa hundreds of thousands and millions of years ago. And back then, the world was local and linear. Nothing affected you that was not within a day's walk. The world didn't change decade to decade or century to century or even millennium to millennium. But today, the world is global and exponential. Things are not changing year to year. They're changing month to month. Something happens in China or India, you know about it seconds later. Your computers know about it microseconds later. And all of this is being driven by what we call exponential technologies. The notion that faster, cheaper computers are sort of the bedrock, the foundation upon which sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, AR, VR, blockchain, all of these technologies are transforming and changing and doubling every 12 to 24 months. And if any one of these could change our world, it can, but it's the convergence of 2, 3, or 4 of these that are coming together to reinvent every business model, to reinvent our ecosystems, our lives, how we govern our nations, our families, and how we run our companies. So when I think about how fast the world is changing from exponential technologies, it's the equivalent over the last 10 or 20 years as almost a disruptive asteroid striking the planet. And we look back 65 million years ago, and it was that sort of an asteroid that struck the planet that disrupted life. And the slow, lumbering dinosaurs who were unable to evolve fast enough became extinct. And it was the furry mammals that ultimately, 65 million years later, became us that dominated the planet. So when the environment is changing that fast, it's hypercritical that we as leaders, thought leaders, entrepreneurs need to be agile in our planet. And people have no idea how fast the world is truly changing. And I believe that more now than ever before. Well, in early 2020, this year, there was another asteroid that struck the planet. And that asteroid was the SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 pandemic. And that asteroid strike has caused so much rapid change that it truly is disrupting industry after industry after industry. And that's the way that I think about it. You know, COVID-19 has taught the entire world the power of exponentials, something that I've been working on teaching for decades now. So what does exponential growth feel like? What does it even mean? So all of us are linear thinkers. I have 2 9-year-old boys, and they're in a linear phase, as we all are. If you take 30 linear steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 30 linear steps, you're 30 meters away. But if I ask you to take 30 exponential steps, where an exponential is a simple doubling, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, in 30 doublings, you're not 30 meters away. In 30 doublings, you're 1 billion meters away. Put differently, you've gone 26 times around the planet. And it's that difference between linear thinking and exponential growth That's so disruptive. Now, I want to share with you some of the things that I'm working on in the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the companies I'm proud to be co-founder and vice chairman of is COVAX. And this is built one of the top blood antibody ELISA testing for testing as a person has been exposed. We are also in production right now of COV-2 vaccines. We have tested 30 different vaccines in animals, identified 2, and are going into human testing. We hope to have as many as 100 million vaccines by the end of the year. In addition to that, one of the companies I'm very proud to be also co-founder and vice chairman of is a company called Cellularity. I'll tell you more about the incredible co-founder, Bob Haruri. And this is a company that uses stem cells and natural killer cells derived from the human placenta to actually not only fight cancers, but in the innate immune system to detect virally infected cells and destroy them. Now, I share this only because I'm deeply embedded in what's going on in the COVID-19 pandemic and give you that for perspective. So here's the good news on the pandemic, which is on everyone's mind still. It's that this is for the first time ever we are facing what I call a singular enemy, right? Every nation, every human on the planet is facing the same challenge of this specific SARS-CoV-2 virus. And somewhere between 100 million and 200 million scientists, physicians, entrepreneurs, nurses are all taking aim at this singular enemy. And as I'm looking around on science labs and hospitals and physicians' offices, there are thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of experiments ongoing right now that will bring a tsunami of solutions. So I'm clear that we will solve this challenge. Other point is it could have been much worse. This particular pandemic, we still don't know what the mortality rate is. We don't know what the denominator is, the number of people who are infected. Hopefully it's somewhere below 1%, but it could have been much higher, something like Ebola, 20, 30% mortality rate. The fourth thing I want to point out is that we are transforming and reinventing everything. So if you, your company, what you invest in are focused on really transformation, this is an incredible time to reinvent, to take a leadership position. And then finally, it's an opportunity to evolve your business. So if there's been a part of the business that has been slow and sluggish like those dinosaurs, it's time to kill it off and let the furry mammals come into existence, right? To take your attention, your capital, and that of your team and focus it on an exponential opportunity. Now, the bad news, of course, is that every industry and business model is transforming fast. And depending on where you are in this process, we're going to see 3 to 5 years of change in 3 to 5 months. So all the slow and old school plays will fail in retail and restaurants, commercial, real estate, education, healthcare, events. Many other industries are transforming super fast. Now, I teach about something I call the 6 Ds of exponential technologies, that whatever we digitize enters a period of slow, deceptive growth. But then all of a sudden, 30 doublings later, it's 1 billion times better, and it's disruptive. And ultimately, it dematerializes, demonetizes, and democratizes products and services. So what does that mean? Here we see it. 20 years later, all of these things fit in your pocket. They become ones and zeros. They're dematerialized. Right? This is why Radio Shack no longer exists. And when you dematerialize a product and service and it's ones and zeros, the cost of replicating it or transmitting it is effectively zero. So we're demonetizing all of these products and services. And ultimately, because they can be sent anywhere, we're democratizing them. So when I'm in the boardrooms of any companies or looking at where I invest my capital, I'm thinking about, okay, how are you digitizing, dematerializing, demonetizing, and democratizing your products and services? So here's a question. How fast can the world change, right? And we're feeling that right now. This is retail back in the year 2006. You can see Sears and JCPenney and Nordstrom's and Macy's and Best Buy. And down at the bottom is that small company called Amazon, $17 billion. Now, if you'd gone to the CEOs of all these companies and say, listen, this Amazon company is going to eat your lunch, they would have laughed at you. But of course, 10 years later, minus 94%, minus 90%, minus 70%, minus almost 3,000%. But of course, that was back in 2016. Today, Amazon is at $1.2 trillion and eating up and down the food chain into all of its adjacencies. So now the question is, where is this coming from? We're going from I've got an idea to I run a billion-dollar company faster than any time ever in human history. And this really, truly is happening as a result of exponential technologies. So companies like YouTube, Instagram, Dropbox, Uber, all the way to Airbnb, all these companies have gone from literally a startup to a multi-billion-dollar company in a handful of years. Now, this is an eye chart, but I want to show you. On the far left is 2011, on the far right is 2015, and every one of these logos is a unicorn, going from startup to multi-billion-dollar valuation in record time. Now, the thing I want to point out is that the concentration of these unicorns in 2015, and I don't have an updated chart for you, but it's continuing to accelerate because, again, the ability for an entrepreneur to come up with an idea, test it, and scale it is incredible. So now the question is, how fast can things change in just 5 months' time? Well, we've all been living on Zoom fatigue, and just check this out, right? From December, going from 10 million actual daily users to 300 million daily users, it's a $47 billion market cap. And what it's done is digitize, dematerialize, and demonetize travel. So Zoom today is worth more than the next 7 largest airlines around the world. So let's take a look at some of the meta trends coming our way. These are some of the big things that as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as investors, we need to be thinking about. The first is that we're about to connect everyone, everywhere at gigabit connection speeds. So our cell phones up until now and through today have been 4G, right? 100 megabits per second. But what's rolled out over the last 12 months and rolling out with tremendous acceleration is 5G around the world. This means that we're going to have our mobile devices connecting at multi-100 megabit and multi-gigabit connection speeds. Now, this is growing like kudzu on the face of our planet. And above our planet is a number of constellations of satellites covering every square meter on the planet. Most famously is Starlink, that's being launched right now by SpaceX. They have 20 launches dedicated to putting up Starlink in the year 2020. The goal is 12,000 satellites minimum, as many as 42,000 satellites covering every square meter in multi-100 megabit and ultimately gigabit connection speeds. Really, whether it's the top of Mount Everest or the Gobi Desert, there's no place that you're not going to be connected. So what this means is we're going from a planet that was back in 2018, half the world connected, to a world in the next 5 years where we're connecting every single human on the planet. We're putting 4.2 billion new minds into the global conversation, right? We're connecting 4.2 billion minds who are coming online, not like I did on AOL at 9600 baud. They're coming online at multi-100 megabit connection speeds with access to the world's knowledge on Google or Baidu. So what are these 4 billion new minds going to create, discover, desire, invent? They represent tens of trillions of dollars flowing into the global economy. And they also represent this uptick in innovation that is coming. Okay, in addition to connecting every single human on the planet and all digital devices, we have a meta trend of increasing human-robot collaboration. So we're about to see a whole new generation of delivery robots. This is Starship that is deploying across college campuses, but these robots are going to be delivering your meals from your local restaurants to your doorstep, especially under the restrictions of COVID-19. We have a whole series of drone delivery services coming as well. But besides these robots, here's another robot. Boston Dynamics is an incredible company. It's now owned by Masa-san at SoftBank, used to be owned by Google, started by an MIT professor who's brilliant, Dr. Mark Rabert. And every year, these robots get better and better, not because the sensors or the actuators, but because of the machine learning that helps them act and behave more human. Let's take a look at what is possible with the Atlas robot just a few months ago. Here's another robotic idea. One of the things that I'm very proud of is to be the founder and executive chairman of the X Prize Foundation. We put up these very large-scale prizes. Well, it was a few years ago that we received a call from the head of innovation and the CEO of All Nippon Airways, ANA, and they asked the question, what would disrupt people getting onto an aluminum tube and flying from New York or LA to Tokyo? Now, the answer we didn't give a pandemic, which has disrupted that. But what about the idea that instead of getting into an airplane and flying to the other side of the planet, what if you could actually beam yourself in to a robotic avatar? So imagine in the future, I'm not coming to you digitally like this, but instead there is a robot that looks like me walking around in your offices or in your living room, and I'm able to put on a pair of VR goggles and a haptic suit and inhabit that robot. Come over and shake your hand, come over and look around. If I'm a doctor, I'm able to do a medical exam. If I'm a disaster relief worker, I can go and help someone that needs help. Right? So this is a $10 million X Prize. We have 100 teams around the world from 15 countries competing for this robotic X Prize. All right, let's look at another meta trend, one that I'm passionate about. It's the field of health, biotech, and longevity. And the old saying, someone who has their health has 1,000 dreams. The man or woman does not has but one dream. So I think there's nothing more important. And so I'm spending a lot of my time in this realm. So a few extraordinary things going on. We have truly learned how to read and write and edit the genome of the human body. We have 3.2 billion genes in our body. When I was back in medical school at Harvard and MIT, I was working on this field of gene therapy. And it's taken 30 years to get to where we are now. But today, there are 20 gene therapy treatments that are approved by the FDA and 400 trials going on. And what a gene therapy treatment, it's nothing less than magical, where you take a virus vector, and this is a friendly virus that you've tamed, and you take the correct gene that a person might be missing, or the need for an extra copy of that gene, you put it into the virus, and the virus is injected into the body, and it goes to the right cells, the muscle cells, the kidney cells, the blood cells, whatever it might be, and injects the proper copy into your body. So gene therapy is extraordinary. Another field is something we've all heard about. It's CRISPR technology, the ability to go in and edit precisely just one letter of the 3.2 billion letters that are the code for life that run you as an operating system. And most recently, out of MIT and Harvard, the Broad Institute, is something called prime editing that is so precise that it has the potential to correct 89% of genetic defects. I mean, that's incredible. And so the promise of CRISPR and gene therapy is to fight cancers, to solve genetic defects, to cure HIV and AIDS, to be our next antibiotic against MERS or other antibacterials, anti-aging. It's just amazing right now. So one of my areas of passion in all of this is, how do I add 20 or 30 healthy years onto your life? Again, we still can't take it with us. So as we begin to age, and I'm in my 50s right now, so I'm looking at this for myself, my family, my friends, my mission is to make 100 years old the new 60. And the technology to enable that is finally coming online. So how do we think about this, right? So one of the challenges is that we're all optimists about what's going on in our bodies. So one of the companies I had a chance to co-found, it's called the Health Nucleus. It's in San Diego. It's opening up facilities in LA and San Francisco. And when you go there, it's about a 4-hour visit. We sequence your entire genome, all 3.2 billion letters, your microbiome. We do a full body MRI, a brain MRI, brain vasculature, a coronary CT, a lung CT. We generate about 150 gigabytes of data about you that then gets fed to a machine learning and data mining algorithms. And our mission is to find out what's going on inside your body. Most of us don't know. And then one day you end up at the hospital with a pain in your side. And we've all had friends who have passed away unexpectedly from this disease or that disease. Well, we just published our findings for the first 1,200 patients who have gone through the health nucleus. And incredibly, these were all seemingly healthy men and women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who could afford the top healthcare on the planet. And they all thought they were fine. 1.7% we found a confirmed cancer that they did not know about. 2.5% had a body, brain, or aortic aneurysm. 7% had moderate or severe cardiovascular risk. 16% aberrant cardiac structure or function. All in all, 14.4% had a significant life-saving finding. So unless we look, we don't find. And so this is where healthcare, which is today's sick care, is going to become proactive, personalized, and predictive. This is another area. Most of us don't realize that when we're born, we have a huge supply of stem cells in our body. And our stem cells are our regenerative engine. These stem cells are going throughout your body looking for damage. When they find damage, they replicate and differentiate into the muscle, the bone, the brain, the cardiac, the kidney, whatever it is to repair that damage. And when we're young, as you can see on this graph, we have lots of stem cells. But as we begin to age, and I want to just point out that line at 30 years old, as we age, the number of stem cells in our body begins to diminish precipitously, where we get 100-fold, 1,000-fold less stem cells than we had at childhood. Now, there's a reason for that. We were never designed as humans to live past age 30. We were designed to be able to have a baby and help that child grow to childbearing years. And by the time we were 30, rather than stealing food from our grandchildren's mouths before food was abundant, the best thing we could do was to die and give our bits back to the environment. So our stem cell populations have fallen off. But today we're learning how to give stem cells back to an individual to replenish the regenerative engine. This is some of the work that I'm doing with Dr. Bob Harari at Cellularity. Here's another friend, Martine Rothblatt. She is extraordinary. Her mission at United Therapeutics is nothing less than to regrow organs. First, lungs, kidneys, heart, liver. Ultimately, we're going to have, in the next decade, an extra spare set of organs. All right. When I talked about that notion of asteroid strikes, that exponential technology was the first asteroid, and then COVID-19 was the most recent asteroid, there's another asteroid coming our way, and that's the impact of artificial intelligence. And I'm not coming at this from a dystopian standpoint that AI is the evil destroyer. It's that AI is going to change things so rapidly that many of us are not ready for it. So I want to give you my thoughts. There are going to be two kinds of companies at the end of this decade. Those that are fully using AI and those that are out of business. Here's a few other thoughts. This is Sundar, the CEO of Alphabet. He says artificial intelligence could have more profound implications for humanity than electricity or fire. And I think Sundar is absolutely right. This is from Elon Musk. Companies have to race to build AI, or they will be made uncompetitive. Essentially, if your competitor is racing to build AI, they will crush you. So the question ultimately is, are you doing what it takes to really inject AI into every aspect of your business? So here are some of the predictions. AI-driven companies will take $1.2 trillion from competitors this year in 2020. Let's take a look at 2021. AI is going to generate $2.9 trillion in business value and recover 6.2 billion hours of worker productivity by 2021. And then finally, by 2030, we're going to see the economy grow by $15 trillion based upon AI. So I want to show you a video. It's a video that I think is one of the most important videos that you should see and consume. DeepMind was purchased by Google about 5-6 years ago. They mostly were building games. They're now using neural networks, machine learning in pharmaceuticals. But famously, DeepMind built an AI called AlphaGo. And AlphaGo won against a guy named Lee Sedol, who was the all-time champion in the game of Go. Now, it was predicted that AI would win in this super difficult game of Go by about the year 2030. AlphaGo did it 12 years earlier. And what's extraordinary is that a year after that, they built something called AlphaZero that won against the original version of AlphaGo 100 games to 0. Let's take a look at this video.
When we played against Lee Sedol, we actually had a system that had been trained on human data, on all of the millions of games that had been played by human experts. We eventually found a new algorithm, a much more elegant approach to the whole system. Instead of learning from human data, it learned from its own games, and that became a project which we called AlphaZero. Zero meaning having zero human knowledge in the loop.
The next stage was to make it more general so that it could play any two-player game, not just Go, but things like chess, shogi, which is Japanese chess, and in fact any kind of two-player perfect information game.
What we discovered was that actually this exceeded all of our expectations.
AlphaZero could start in the morning playing completely randomly, and then by tea it would be superhuman level. By dinner it would be the strongest chess entity there's ever been.
After about 8 or 9 hours, it was strong enough to be able to go out and defeat Stockfish, the incumbent world champion, a program which was vastly stronger than Deep Blue, the program which had previously defeated Kasparov.
So when I look at that, I think, what else is a game? Is real estate investing a game? Stock market's a game? We are going to need to involve AI in partnership with humans in every single field. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to start seeing a requirement that all physicians do diagnostics in partnership with AI. That in fact, it'll be malpractice not to use AI. Now, what's going on at the same time is that the technology, the hardware on top of which these neural nets are being built is exploding. And NVIDIA just released something called the A100 GPU pack, which is 20 times the performance of its predecessors. And GPUs and systems like this are being used to do data crunching to develop vaccines to fight COVID-19. And we're going to all have AI brought to us, whether it's the next generation of HTC VR goggles or the Oculus VR goggles, both of which are going to double in resolution sometime in the next 6 to 12 months. Or the rumors are coming out for Apple's augmented reality glasses, maybe the spring of 2021 or early 2022. And it's going to transform what we see and how we learn and how we interact with our environment. But I want to share with you something to close out with that is amazing. And I'm fond of this phrase that the day before something is truly a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. And so I ask companies all the time, where inside your organization are you trying crazy ideas or anticipating crazy ideas? Because if you're not, you're stuck in incrementalism instead of truly into breakthroughs. So the crazy idea I want to speak about and close out on is the concept of brain-computer interface. That we are on the verge of connecting our neocortex, or 100 billion neurons, to the cloud. In the same way that your cell phone, when it has a difficult calculation, doesn't do it on the cell phone. Your cell phone uses 4G and eventually 5G to go out to the edge of the cloud, do the calculations, and bring the results back. Our brains will do the same. And so in the last 12 months, we've seen incredible technologies coming online. This is one that uses these rice-sized brain implants that can each transmit 10 megabits per second from the brain out to the cloud. This is a woman who is blind, who put this array on her visual cortex and can now see. Her vision is restored. But what is most powerful is that last summer, we saw the announcement of Neuralink. Neuralink is one of Elon Musk's companies in which he has committed to connecting the human brain to the cloud. What you see in the center there is a small little chip. 10 of those chips implanted onto the surface of the brain generate a 2 gigabit connection speed to the cloud. That machine on the right of your screen is actually built that's able to go in through an incision into the brain and insert 1,000 plus connections from that chip onto the neocortex of your brain. Now, these chips are already in primates, and they've announced their plans to be in humans by the end of this year. So there we have it, a series of metatrends going on around the world at the same time that the COVID-19 pandemic is forcing us to digitize our lives. Now, for many, this change and this rate of change is scary. But I want to remind you that we're living during an extraordinary time and that a negative mind will never give you a positive life. I truly believe that the world's biggest problems, the world's biggest business opportunities, entrepreneurs today more than ever are looking to solve these challenges and these problems. I am so honored to have a chance to share my thoughts, my passions with you. If you'd like a copy of these slides, just send an email to keynote@diamandis.com. My server will send them to you. Please share them with your kids, your coworkers, your friends. You know, I'm proud of the work that we're doing at Abundance 360, at Singularity University, at XPRIZE, and I thank you for your attention. It's a pleasure to share with you what I'm so passionate about.
네, 감사합니다. 예, 다시 한번 정말 멋진 기조 연설을 해주신 피터.
Thank you very much. That was great keynote speech. Once again, I'd like to extend my warm appreciation for his wonderful keynote speech. And we're going to have our Q&A session. So we'd like to have the Q&A session with Mr. Peter Diamandis. I'm going to speak in English from now on for the better communication with him. And then I'm going to have the translation into Korean as well. So are we having him here now? 자, 대표님 잘 들리십니까?
Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, yes.
Yeah, good evening. Right, yeah. First of all, thank you very much for your great keynote speech, and it was really, really inspiring and insightful. So let us start a Q&A session here. Okay. So actually, I brought your book today. Can you see it?
I can see it. Can I sign it? Can I sign it for you?
Yeah, it was very interesting. All right. So in this book, and also in your presentation today, you introduced a lot of interesting examples of exponential technologies. But I also think, and it is also, I mean, even more important for us to make our institution policy and legal framework, scope with these technologies, proactively. So, for example, as you said, we all would enjoy the longevity, thanks to the exponential digital healthcare technology. But it would mean that our life without a job even will be longer, and also with the high speed growth of AI, probably a lot of jobs also will be disappearing. So, how much actually do you think the government and policymakers are ready to deal with these issues, and how much they are ready to adjust our social economic system to these radical changes? So this is my first question.
It's an excellent question, and I think here's the challenge: humans don't like change. We don't like dramatic change. When we wake up in the morning, we like it that the world is the same as it was the night before. And in our world, governments are the stabilizing force that help maintain stability. And they do a very good job at that. But we're living in a world of exponential growth, and the only constant is change. And so the reality is that some smaller, more nimble governments are more agile and able to change. Other governments are slower and cannot support change. But I think agility, the ability of a government to really work with the leading industries, in this case, the government of South Korea with Samsung, to understand where the world is going and to help get us there. I think another point that you raised is the notion that we're going to be potentially living longer and losing our jobs. And we live in a world where, for many of us, our jobs give us our meaning. And if our jobs are lost to robots or to AI, do we lose the meaning of our life? And these are real issues that we're going to have to deal with. I think in the future, we're going to start to separate work we do to make an income and work we do for personal fulfillment. And I think those are potentially two different areas. And ultimately, what I hope, at least for the next decade, is it's less AI and robots replacing humans, but it's AI and robots partnering with humans to allow us to do more with every minute of our day.
Thank you very much for your answer. Well, I think the agile government and agile policymakers is one of the key factors that we have to think about, according to your answer. And also regarding your distinction between income and personal fulfillment, I think probably we would need also different definition between job and work, right? So thank you for your answer. Okay, so the second question, actually there are several questions from the audience regarding the digital divide. So you mentioned that nearly all human population will be connected within a few decades, but still nearly half of the population in the world are not connected at all. And so while we can see this amazing new exponential technology on one part of the world, but there's still a big gap in developing world. And some people really concerned this kind of exponential technology and development even make this divide bigger. So my question is, how can we really achieve a balance between the development of this cutting-edge technology and also access for the unprivileged people to the technology and their benefits?
Another really important question, and thank you for the chance to answer it, because it's one of my favorite questions. If you look at history over the last 1,000 years, we can describe the world as the haves and everybody else is the have-nots, right? It was the king and the queen, the emperor, the pharaoh, and everybody else. 99.99% of the people had very little. And even the emperor or the king or the pharaoh had very little compared to us today, but they had the most. So that was the world of the have and the have-nots. Where we're going, in my mind, is a world of haves and super haves. In other words, the notion that we're working towards a world in which we're able to uplift the needs of every man, woman, and child on the planet. These exponential technologies give us the ability to create a world where every child, using artificial intelligence for education or for healthcare, has the best education possible, the best healthcare possible. One of the things that's also very true is that the poorest countries in the world are the sunniest countries in the world and have the potential for all of the energy needs, right? The earth is bathed in 8,000 times more energy from the sun than we consume as a species. And a country that is rich in energy and the cost of energy production is rapidly plummeting. Storage is coming along a little slower, but we'll get there. But if you have energy abundance, you then have the ability to have clean water abundance, and half the diseases of humanity are due to unclean drinking water. So it's hard for us to remember how difficult it was 100 years ago and how much better we have it today. But I think this is the continuous process. We're creating more and more access to food, water, energy, healthcare, education, entertainment for more and more people on the planet.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think to achieve this also, the global solidarity and the cooperation is also very, very important. Okay, some questions are from the audience. So one of the questions that I really wanted to pay attention to is that, well, here, yeah. So considering all these fast changes, and then it will be very essential for us to think about how to shape the future of digital, shape the future for the next generation. But a lot of people really are concerned whether the current education system is really ready and appropriate for the next generation to be better prepared for the future. So what do you think as the most important part that the education policymakers should think about, and how should the current education system will be transformed?
Great question. I have two 9-year-old boys, so I think about this a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that our education system globally really has not changed in a couple of 100 years. The majority of the educational system, it's still one person on the stage speaking to an audience of students. Half the students are bored, half the students are lost. And there's no question that where we're heading is a world where we can personalize education for every student in a way that is extraordinary. And this is the convergence of technologies. It's a number of technologies coming together. In this case, it will be artificial intelligence. It will be technologies like virtual reality, technologies even like gaming, right? I think about this where when you're a student, you start with 100% as your score. And every time you get something wrong, your score goes down, down, down. If you're in the gaming world, if you're playing a game, you start with 0, and every time you get something right, your score goes up. The human incentives. We need to reinvent education. And it's something which a number of entrepreneurs, I think one of the benefits of COVID-19 is it's going to disrupt both healthcare and education. We have many platforms. I have a venture fund, about $250 million, and I'm seeing business plans of how to reinvent education. One of the future elements of education that I imagine is if I wanted my grandparents came from Greece, if I wanted my children to learn about the ancient history of Greece, in the future, they put on a VR goggles and they look over there and they see Plato sitting on a piece of marble, and they go and speak to Plato and they walk around with him and they talk to him and they experience living what it's like in ancient Greece or Rome or Seoul or wherever it might be, in a way that we learn by full immersion experience. I think will be an extraordinary way. But ultimately, when I think about what's the most important thing for teaching our kids, it's number one, it has nothing to do with technology. Number one, it is helping our kids find their passion. What are they passionate about? Number two, it's helping them ask great questions. I think in this world where we can know anything, anytime, anywhere, it's the quality of the questions you ask that's most important. And the third, at least for myself and my kids, is what we call grit, not giving up, continuing and not giving up.
Right. Well, especially the last part that you mentioned, the 3 really important elements of education is very inspiring, because it sounds like in order to make a really digital transformation, we need a very robust, strong analog foundation, which means that we have to really build our future generation with a proper mindset and philosophy and passion. So yeah, that's a very interesting answer. Okay, probably would be the last question given the little limited time we have. So I'm just going to read this question as it is here. So you seem confident that pandemic will provide numerous opportunities, especially for startups, and will come out of the pandemic better off than before. But are there any negative effects of COVID-19 which we have to be concerned?
Well, I think there are negative impacts of COVID-19, obviously, to those people whose health and whose economics it has severely impacted. A lot of people are suffering from that. I think one of the most challenging things is its exposure of where we're weak, exposure of where our systems were not prepared for this. I also see one of the things I've really have taken personal pride and pleasure in watching is the globalization of the world, where we are really building a global economy. And I think COVID-19 caused a number of countries to pull back on their supply chains and nationalize production and distribution inside their country. I do think that what we're doing right now, we're connecting on the Zoom platform, will allow us to globalize the workforce. So that if there's a brilliant scientist, engineer, executive in Seoul that I want to hire on my team, I can do that because I'm talking to you as I would be talking to someone a kilometer away here in Los Angeles, where I'm broadcasting from. So that's interesting, right? Where we might globalize the workforce more, even while we nationalize some of the supply chain elements.
Great. Thank you very much again. So I think we have to finish it now. So thank you again, Peter, for your time and your presentation and all your answers. And then have a good evening. And then we hope we can meet not in virtually, but probably in physically in Korea and somewhere in the future. Is there any last comment you want to do?
I look forward to coming and visiting in person. And I wish all of you the best in the event. Please remember that we're living in an extraordinary world. And this is a world in which each of us have more power than the kings and queens, the emperors. We have an extraordinary capabilities to solve problems. And that, for me, this is the most important thing, to incentivize, to inspire and guide people to find and solve problems, because that makes the world a better place.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye now.
네, 이로써 기조연설과 Q&A를
Thank you so much. That
마치도록
was
하겠습니다.
the keynote speech and the Q&A session with Mr. Peter Diamandis. We'd like to give our full appreciation to Mr. Peter Diamandis once again. I know that we have a lot of other burning questions. I looked at the list of all the questions. Some of them are related to our sessions in the afternoon, so I'm going to keep them alive in the afternoon. So I keep my promise. It means that you have to stay tuned until the end of the day.